Brian Moran, founder of GovernmentCIO. Welcome to GovernmentCIO Magazine.
Hi, this is Olivia. I'm with GovernmentCIO Magazine. Today we'll be speaking with David Shive, Chief Information Officer at the General Services Administration.
So FITARA has confirmed the way that the GSA CIO has operated over the last 3 or so years. 3 years ago we started an IT consolidation throughout the organization with the express focus on delivering streamlined and optimized IT for our business customers. The idea was that there was siloed IT aligned with each of our business units, that there was a fair amount of duplication in how we provided IT service. There's a fair amount of duplication in the IT assets and systems that we used, and we thought that if we consolidated those operations and those IT assets, that we might be able to drive some savings, we might get a bit more efficient in how we operate, and we might be able to provide better IT service to our customers while also being able to do so in a more agile and streamlined way. We started that work 3 years ago, and the work was difficult. It took us a while to be able to align that vision with our business customers' expectations of us. But through a lot of hard work and a lot of executive leadership from our front office and from our business customers, we were able to do that consolidation. So when FITARA came out, we found that many of the good IT principles that were laid out in FITARA we had already embarked on and had been able to accomplish. So it really confirmed our original ideas and our original assumptions about what good IT is in the federal space. So my role, it has changed it a bit in that it gives me some additional authorities that back up the good IT principles that we started operating against over 3 years ago. Those additional authorities allow me to have good, strong conversations with my business customers and my stakeholders to confirm what we did before and maintain that going forward. The way we're going about addressing the requirements is we, like any CFO Act agency, are required to give a FITARA implementation plan to our partners at OMB. They're vetting our plan right now as we speak, and then once that's approved by OMB, we'll be obligated to act on that implementation plan. Our plan was built around our IT consolidation, so a fair amount of the work has already taken place. But the remaining work is to more closely align the way we structure our IT organization and the way we run our IT operations to make sure that it obeys the letter of the law in FITARA. The experience it's actually been fantastic. As we looked through the tenets of FITARA, we were excited to see that we're actually pretty well aligned with it. When we take a look at some of the key components of our consolidation activities, how we spend money with the vendor community, how we deploy infrastructure in the GSA IT enterprise, how we perform governance over those investments that we make in IT. Those were all very well aligned with FITARA. What it's allowed us to do is go in and check our math. It's allowed us to say, are we doing our governance right in a way that conforms with the law? Are we running our IT operations the way that we're supposed to? Some examples of that are, for our IT operations, we looked at duplicative processes that existed across all of our business units and that exist within the GSA IT enterprise. And we're able to weave out those duplicative processes and save time and save taxpayer dollars at the same time. We're able to take a look at our infrastructure that exists across the enterprise and look at duplicate infrastructure and consolidate on best practice infrastructure that exists within the enterprise and shut down unnecessary, unneeded, and duplicate infrastructure. we're able to rationalize our applications to say where in the enterprise do we have similar software components performing the same function but for different business units, and standardize on best practice software. And then that allows us to take the next step, which is to, instead of just consolidate on infrastructure, it allows us to transform at the same time. So we can say, we've rationalized and standardized on a single application type, and then say what's the best for the future. If you're looking for true transformation on hardware and software and other components like that, by far the easier way to do that is to say, I'm going to go from one particular software out to another, say a cloud-based application. If you're going from 30 or 40 applications, similar applications out to the cloud, it's made very difficult. So it's streamlined our ability to do those transformation type activities. We actually employed a series of frameworks. A federal government enterprise is large, it's unwieldy, it's terribly complex, and so the frameworks that we use to not only operate in that large enterprise but also do consolidation activities is extensive. We use ITIL, stuff like that, to take a look at how we run our infrastructure. I'll pick one out of the sky and just kind of focus on that. One of the frameworks we used is TIME, for application rationalization. It's a process where you investigate your suite of applications and you decide, are you going to tolerate in that application or suite of applications? Are you going to invest in them? Are you going to migrate to other technologies? Or are you going to eliminate? And there's a rote process that you go through to do that analysis on every single application in a suite of similar applications. And it allows you to focus on the key components and characteristics of the application. So you can say this truly is, this one out of the many is truly the best and a good candidate for consolidation. That complex work of analysis also allows us to anticipate potential transformation opportunities, because when you know in deep detail what applications are doing, how they're constructed, what business problems they're solving, and you know that about your entire inventory of applications, and then you also do a little bit of research about emerging technologies and emerging capabilities. It allows those technology decision makers the ability to make good transformational decisions. So while TIME is mostly focused on rationalizing applications to consolidate on single or groups of applications, it also provides the building blocks for transformation. So this is one of the things that I'm hugely proud of about working for GSA IT. Casey Coleman, the CIO from a few years ago, hired me in right at the start of consolidation, and I was excited to be a part of the team that was going to do this. We've been able to accomplish a great number of things. So one of the key components is we have greater visibility into our investment and spending in the organization. When IT is aligned with various business units and deeply embedded down into what we call our staff and service offices, you don't have a lot of visibility into what the spend is, how the infrastructure operates, and things like that. When we centralize all management and operation of IT, it opens the door so that you can have visibility into those investments and those spends on your portfolio of systems. Just because the door is open doesn't mean, though, that you're going to realize anything. You just can see it. We were able to take the next step, which allowed us to go in and analyze what we had, analyze what was in the pipeline, and make good decisions. The value of zero-based budgeting in the federal space can be debated ad nauseum. We tend to think that it's hugely valuable here in GSA. When we consolidated, it allowed us to look at every single line item of spend that looks like IT and maybe looks a little not like IT, and come away with a couple of conclusions. One, if you know it's there, then you can pay attention to it and you can manage it. Number two, we're able to see spend in the GSA community that maybe didn't sound like IT, but really was IT. And we're able to say, there's opportunities there to consolidate, to optimize, to transform. Because we look at every single line item of spend within the GSA budget, looking for IT budget, it gives us that clarity to say this should be consolidated into the GSA CIO enterprise and then properly managed by the IT organization. Another benefit is enterprise-wide planning. When you plan your IT performance and outlays and technology choices based on individual business unit lines, you get tailored IT that's specific for the business, and that's a great thing in most cases. But there is some commodity IT where it makes sense to have enterprise-wide view, collaboration systems, email systems, document management systems, stuff like that. It allows us, the consolidation has allowed us to do true enterprise planning where we can say, here's the roadmap for GSA, the business roadmap of GSA, and then we're able to develop technology solutions that align very well with that GSA mission. Part of the GSA mission is, of course, the individual missions of the individual business units within GSA. So it really gives us kind of that top-down view to properly plan how we're going to spend our IT dollars and how we're going to deploy IT that meets the entire mission of GSA, with keeping a keen eye towards potential savings, towards transformation, and things like that. There's more. We've been able to optimize our IT operations and our infrastructure. I talked a little bit about our application and infrastructure rationalization. We're deep enough into our consolidation that we're now able to focus largely on transformation. We're able to assess what the emerging trends are in the IT marketplace and see where those trends might positively impact the GSA computing enterprise. And then weave those in on a true enterprise perspective, rather than just gaining value in small little individual parts of the organization, you're able to do it in a much larger enterprise. We've been able to optimize our IT spend and vendor management. I'll be the first to admit, working with a federal agency, it can be difficult for the vendor community. Lots of times it's not very clear who to talk to, who the decision makers are. It's not particularly clear what technologies are in play or in use in an organization. Yet the vendor community needs to know some of that stuff so they can potentially offer up solutions that are going to help us with our difficult mission. So one of the things we did is we stood up a vendor management office to facilitate that two-way dialogue with the vendor community. That allows us a couple of things. It allows us to clearly communicate to the vendor community, to our industry partners, what our goals and objectives are, so they can help by designing and developing and deploying solutions within GSA that's going to be well aligned with our mission objectives. It also allows us to streamline that massive tidal wave of communication that comes in from the vendor community into GSA. So that they are not wasting their time talking to a variety of people who are never going to have a decision or have decision authority on IT spend and what technologies we use. They're able to come in at a single point so they know that their discussions with us, a federal government entity, are optimized and streamlined. And then this also allows us to look for opportunities to consolidate some of our IT spend with our industry partners. So instead of them coming in and selling to individual business units and selling the same thing repeatedly, we're able to instead focus on more beneficial enterprise agreements that will serve the entire GSA enterprise. So we've been working, like all federal agencies have been working on data center consolidation. through the Federal Data Center Consolidation Initiative managed by OMB. That work was made much, much easier by the fact that we're in a consolidated IT organization. The first thing when you're going to consolidate data centers is you have to know what's out there. And if you don't have a good read on what's out there, you're doing data calls to business units that own data centers that sometimes know what they have and sometimes don't. That's made more difficult. If all of that sits under one IT shop umbrella, then knowing what's out there is half the battle. But then when we do the busy work of consolidating data centers, we've been reasonably successful. We've shut down 87 data centers since the initiative started. We're able to do things like save $29 million. That's good stuff. That's a good news story. But the really good news story that's kind of just under the covers there is we've simplified our IT. We've been able to standardize on IT infrastructure across our remaining data centers. We've been able to take a look at that consolidated infrastructure and looked for viable candidates to move out to cloud service providers, whether that's as infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. It's facilitated our move to the cloud, consolidating these data centers. When you know what you have and what you have is consolidated and efficient, it allows you to focus less and less on driving more efficiencies and instead focusing on transformation. So we're always looking to ferret out overlap. Perfect example, that zero-based budgeting process that I mentioned before. We didn't just do that once, we do that again and again and again. And that work is focused on reducing duplication, optimizing how we do our spend. We're also looking for things like shadow IT that pop up in other units, which is one of the typical outcomes when you consolidate IT. So that's one of the ways that we're looking to do that. Another is, so when you run a large IT organization, there are complexities in the enterprise that are considerable. And so now that we are post-IT consolidation, we're looking for opportunities to continue to drive simplicity into our organization. The consolidation allows us to do that because instead of managing a large, complex organization, it's a bit more optimized, so it's a slightly less complex organization, so it helps us do that. But one of the main post-consolidation points that I'm most excited about is this increases our ability to better align ourselves with our business. When your organization is not consolidated and it's large and it's unwieldy, you spend most of your cycles, most of your bandwidth managing IT. And IT shops that focus on managing IT have reduced value, I'll say it that way. IT shops that are business partners with businesses that they support and that are aware of the businesses they support and they're aware of the business missions and objectives typically are IT shops that provide greater value, not only to the businesses they support, but to the taxpayers whose money that we're spending. So one of the post-IT consolidation activities that is a focus of GSA IT in this coming year is taking a look at what we need to do to better align ourselves with our business customers. When we consolidated, we became a shared service organization. Our customers pay us to provide service, and I'm obligated to show the value that they're getting in return for that investment. Because of that, I'm increasingly looking for ways to run our IT shop as a business. And if I can't show that there's a positive business outcome to whatever activity I'm doing, some system implementation, some transformation, then I'm going to think long and hard about why I would be doing that. It's allowed me to change the way that I interact with my employees. I'm able to ask them to act like business partners and solution engineers with business focus. And I'm able to have conversations with my business partners that are focused on their business goals and objectives rather than processor uptime or memory utilization or things like that. Things that our businesses rightfully don't care one iota the success of the GSA IT consolidation and our alignment with FITARA as it exists now I don't want to minimize the hard work that the teams within GSA have performed. They've done wildly complex work. They've done a great job. We've saved millions and millions of dollars. We've simplified IT. It's been a very successful run. But what drove that success was a strong executive leadership from the top. And I'm not talking about the CIO of GSA, although I did have a part in that, and CIOs prior to me had a significant part in that. It was strong executive leadership from our front office and strong executive partnership from the businesses that we support. This would not have been successful unless they had co-opted the vision and said, this is good for GSA, this is good for GSA IT, this is good for the business of GSA, and it's good for the taxpayers of the United States. So the work was hard, and there were challenges where we had to resolve some pretty difficult disagreements, but anything worth doing typically has some hard elements to it. The executives within GSA stood by the concept, even though it was hard and difficult at times, because they knew it was the right thing to do. So that's the first part. The second part is, IT kind of revels in the notion of change and transformation. One thing that IT executives need to remember, and we put at the forefront of all of our transformation, all of our consolidation, was organizational change management. Change is difficult on the business users that use our systems and use our platforms. Our business customers have hard, complex jobs performing their mission, and if they're thinking about the IT that they're using to complete their mission, that's processing cycles that they are not focusing on completing their mission. And change is hard. It creates disruption, and it creates challenges for our users. So we invested a ton of time, a ton of effort, and a ton of communications into letting our employees know that this is good, this is why it was good, and that it was going to be difficult, and it was going to introduce change to the way they did things. But we talked at length about the outcomes that we expected, and we talked at length about what the pain and suffering was going to look like as we went through the transformation. And then when we started to see positive outcomes, we started reminding them, saying, we knew this was going to be hard, we expected some outcomes, and here they are. So that breeds kind of an environment where transformation is accepted, and where the difficulties associated with large transformation are accepted by your user community. It's critically important to never miss that organizational change management part of transforming an organization.